I wanted to get into this video and it's in the morning right now, and I'm purposely making myself cold because I just need to wake up, and this is one of the first things that I'm doing in the morning. And I'm hoping that this video, it gives you some insight into how lust can ruin a man's future. I have my best thoughts in the morning, but let me get into this video. So the first thing that I'm going to say is about exposure therapy. So the more times that you're exposed to something, you're supposed to get over it. And when it comes to exposure therapy, it's mostly about fears that you need to get over. And for example, when it comes to lust, you have to realize that it's advertised indirectly. So before streaming became a thing, you have to realize it was on TV channels, it was on websites, it's even in films as well, it could be in music. And you have to realize that when you're exposed to something such as lust, you realize that it can make people traumatized, or it can make people disappointed. And when I say traumatized, it's because, for example, when you're exposed to lust, where guys and women, they're not wearing any layers, you realize it becomes normal. And then also the things that are good, where you're showing up for yourself, you're disciplined, you realize it's considered boring because what is good, they make it seem bad. But then the bad things, such as being with the wrong person, staying out late. When I mean staying out late, it's because you're out for no reason. So that's the thing, you normally are with someone, but you're lusting over someone else. Because the thing is, most people are lusting because it's something that they can't really have. And when you finally have it, you realize that it's not really what you expected. So that's the thing, because most people are conditioned to want what it is that they don't have. And the thing is, you crave it, you want it so much. And the reason why lust, it can really disappoint people, especially guys, from like a guy's perspective, because when it comes to guys, it's mostly what they see. But then when it comes to women, it's more about what a guy does and what they say. So the reason why it may disappoint guys is because the thing is, they're seeing so many women without layers, but then you have to realize that women are not normally like this in real life. So you want to be with women as a guy that don't really act that way. So that's why you ask about a woman's body count. But then you have to realize those women, they're not really lustful because they're not exposing themselves to it. And you have to realize that as a guy, that once you start to see something, you can't unsee it. And that's really the same thing for women as well. Once a guy starts to act in a bad way, you have to realize that women can't unsee it. And the thing is, you don't want to be that person that's always lustful, because when you're lustful, it distracts you. It distracts you from your purpose. It distracts you from your health as well. And it distracts you, and it could ruin your relationships. The reason why lust can ruin a man's future is because you're exposed to women that you don't really know, but then also you're lusting to women that you don't really know, and you're lusting to women that you're not really with. When it comes to guys that are lustful, they can't look past a woman's physical standpoint. You have to make sure that when you're with the right woman, that she can actually satisfy your needs, but then also she can have conversations with you to stop you falling into temptation. Because you have to realize, like, for example, as us guys, you may know a woman that can walk good, that smells good, that looks good, and they happen to always say the right things. But then when it comes to guys, you have to realize that if they had the opportunity to be with multiple women, just based on how they look, based on how they smell, based on so many women liking them, you have to realize that because you're so lustful, you forget the fact that some people are bad people. And that's what I'm going to say, because some people don't have the best intentions. Some people just want to increase their body count. And you have to realize as well that when it comes to body count, no matter if it's high or if it's low, you shouldn't really tell anyone. Because one, if you tell someone, it's going to make you remember the people that you was with. And also you have to realize that some people may have been treated badly in a relationship, but then they try and move on. So you have to realize some people may have been treated badly in a relationship, but you don't really know that. You just assume that that person has been with multiple people. And I'm going to say that sometimes when your body count is so high, it's because you start to be with so many people, you don't value people as much. So for example, a house or a car that loses value over time, it's the same thing for a guy or a woman that happens to be with any and everyone. Because when you get with any and everyone, you realize it starts to increase sexual diseases. You realize that you don't value people as much. You don't value your time at all, because all you're doing is spending your time with people that aren't really right for you. And then it changes the way that you think about things, and it changes the way that you think about yourself. The way that you think about things is if people desire you, and if people don't desire you, you start to act out in aggressive ways, you start to act out in bad ways, and you realize that, for example, your environment plays such a huge role. Because if people around you are working on themselves, you don't really have time to be lustful. And you realize in a professional setting, you're always talking about what you can do to improve. You're always talking about things that add value to not only your life, but to someone else's. And you have to realize that when you're in a professional environment, the most important thing is that people are dressing professionally. The people in a professional setting, they're not dressing provocatively. It's a really hard word to say, and I'm not saying it again. They're dressing in a way that's provocative. And you have to realize that people that are dressing in a provocative way, you only see them for what they are physically. You don't actually know the person. Another thing that I wanted to say, so, for example, if women and guys, they start to dress in a way that is very attractive, is very seductive, you have to realize that if you start dressing in a way that people start lusting over you, but then you're the ones that want a long-term relationship, you have to realize that in order to have a long-term relationship, you need to start dressing in a decent way, because how you appear on the outside is how people are going to perceive you. So for example, if I'm always having my shirt off, if I'm always taking pictures in my room, you have to realize that some people are going to perceive me as a guy that just wants to sleep around, but that's not really me at all. And just in general as well, I'm just saying this in general, because you have to realize that when it comes to lust, it depends on your environment. You have to realize that when it comes to one night stands, the thing is, some people may have rules where they're like, I'm with one person and I'm not going to see that person more than once. You have to realize that's how some people think about it in a one night stand. They just think about seeing a person once, but you don't want to be that person where you get super attached. You don't want to be a person that says you want something casual, but deep down you want something long term. And you don't want to be pressured into doing something that you don't want to do. And people that aren't exposed to lustful things, you realize it's going to be strange to them. And people that are exposed to lustful things, you realize it's going to be considered normal. And the reason why you may ruin relationships is because what you want and what someone else wants is so different. And then you try and change the person when you know deep down you can't really change anyone and you can't change their behavior. But instead, you want to do everything you can to just have self-control, to not be aggressive, to not be reactive. So when you're aggressive and you're reactive towards a person, you realize that you're trying to control that person. You're trying to make that person act in a way that you want without really telling them to do that. So that's what I'm going to say, because you can have a sit-down conversation and you realize that what you want and what you need, you just need to address it with the person you're with. Not every single person is going to see your value, but then also you don't want to be the person where all you're just doing is really escaping from your problems, but instead you want to take the time, heal. And you have to realize that when you're doing that, for example, it's because you're trying to run away from your problems, and that could be the case. It's not always, but that could be the case. And you realize that if you need time to heal, it doesn't mean just be with one person and then another, but instead you need to realize that healing is more about spending time with yourself. So, for example, I'm speaking from a guy's perspective, and I may need to just keep saying this throughout the video, because you have to realize it's going to be completely different towards the women's side. And we can hear what women have to say in the comments if they really want to. But then what I'm going to say, so how women are highly desired? It's because the reason why they're highly desired is because they're dressed in a certain way. And for example, most guys are really attracted to that. But then also you have to realize that if you were to stay with your preferences, you realize that if a woman doesn't fall within your preferences, you're going to limit the woman that you're attracted to. So when you have preferences as a guy and as a woman, you realize that if you were to stick to your preferences, that you're going to limit the amount of women that you're exposed to, but then you're limiting the women that you actually like and have lustful thoughts for. And I'm going to say this because when a woman is highly desired, they know so many guys will like it, but then they're also doing it for validation. And you have to realize that as guys, if you don't have any self-control, you realize that what people say and do is going to get to you. Instead of using that energy towards other people, you need to start using that energy towards yourself, where you're like working out, you try your best to attract at least a right woman for you. Because you have to realize when you're in the gym and you're working out and you see other women that's working out, you realize that they're focused on themselves. And when they're focused on themselves, they are more likely to attract someone that's right for them down the line. And when you go to the gym, it can actually heal you, because the things that you go through, it's not that you're telling people about it, but it's just another way of how to release tension, to not be tempted, but then also it's just really going after what it is that you want. Because when you go to the gym, you have a goal in mind, and when you're lusting, you don't have any goal in mind apart from being with a person. And let's say, for example, that as a guy, you get to be with any person you want. You have to realize down the line, you're going to get that person pregnant. You're not going to have your life that you really wanted because you're spending time taking care of a child. But then you have to realize if you're not really ready for a child, then you need to stop lusting. The main takeaway of this video for guys and girls, you have to realize that the way you dress is so important, because the way that you dress is going to attract people that are right for you or people that are not right for you. And when I mean people that are right for you, it means people that can look past your physical attributes. Someone that's wrong for you, they have bad intentions. Someone that's wrong for you will waste your time. And someone that is wrong for you, you meet them in bad environments. And that's all I got to say, because if I'm leaving anything and if I forget anything, just let me know, because that's all I can really think about now. I had an idea that I was going to say in this video, but I forgot it. So yeah, that's all I got to say, and thank you for watching. If you're new, like, comment and subscribe. And if you're a guy as well, just comment down below how you've gotten over lust. Because the thing is, it's not easy, but the more that you do everything you can to not fall into your desires, you realize you're much better off and you're more likely to have a future that you're proud of. So that's all I got to say, and I'll see you again soon.